if I left out anything, it's probably stuff that was even more damning.
It's that bad.
It's that bad. I mean, it's an extraordinary moment in time.
Well, that was writer Michael Wolff on NBC's Meet the Press this morning discussing his explosive new book, Fire and Fury. Now, the White House is pushing back on that book, an instant bestseller which portrays the president and his team in a not so flattering light. In fact, some of the most damaging quotes in the book come from Trump's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon. He's said to have criticized Trump and the First Family. Meanwhile, Trump's lawyers are trying to block further copies of the book from being released and have reportedly threatened legal action against its author, Michael Wolff, and his publisher. Well, for more, let's turn to our Washington correspondents panel right now. Joining us this week, Paul Brandis of West Wing Reports and columnist with USA Today. Linda Feldman of the Christian Science Monitor is with him in the Washington studio. So welcome to the two of you. A happy 2018, as this is the first time we're getting together. But, you know, here we have, Paul, a book that describes Trump as a disinterested, ill-prepared, perhaps even an incapable man in the office in which he holds. What's your read of this book?
Well, I don't think anybody should be surprised at a lot of these revelations. I mean, a lot of the stuff, Michael, that Michael Wolff has written about, we've suspected for some time. There have been leaks coming from this White House for the entire year that Donald Trump has been in office. It's no secret that he has a short attention span. It's no secret that he doesn't read. It's no secret that he's not up on these very serious and substantive issues. It's no secret that there's been just a variety of infighting, kind of a circus atmosphere within the West Wing. None of this should be surprising to anybody. I think Michael Wolff has really just brought it all together in one big book. But again, there's really nothing that I'm surprised at here. And it's interesting also, in fact, a little bit gratifying, frankly, to see that Donald Trump is getting a lesson in how the First Amendment works. He can't stop a book from being published just because his little feelings are hurt. Poor boy. This book is going to go forward no matter what he and his lawyers say and try to do.
Well, you know, to Paul's point, Linda, a lot of people are saying that this book essentially backs up what we've heard about this White House through reports, through leaks, through conversation in the U.S. Capitol. What's your take?
My take is, I agree with Paul. I think this was a lot of confirmation of stuff we've already been hearing. But, I mean, the business with Steve Bannon, his former chief strategist, and the claim of treason, that was new. And that one really caught my eye. And I remember thinking, wow, why isn't Steve Bannon, in essence, being held as a material witness in the Mueller investigation? Having said that, what you know, the thing about this book is that it really is kind of over the top, and there have been a lot of questions about Michael Wolff's sort of veracity and sticking to the facts. And he himself says that this is stuff that he believes to be true. Now, it's true that he was allowed to be, in essence, a fly on the wall in the West Wing, which is absolutely stunning to me and shows that this White House, in many ways, wasn't ready for prime time when they took office. But having said that, you know, Wolff as a fly on the wall, he still sort of went with things. He says, I'm not sure what's true here. I'm saying what I believe to be true. And so there is an out here for the White House, albeit a narrow one.
Well, let me pick up on that point because, you know, Trump does say that Michael Wolff never interviewed him for this book. The author, as we say, was on Meet the Press today. He was asked about that by Chuck Todd. Take a listen to Wolff's response to that question.
The White House says the last time that they have a record of you speaking to him was in February of 2017, which is not even through the first 100 days.
There was that moment. There were several other moments after that. And
did he not know that they were interviews?
He probably, yes, he probably did not think of them as interviews.
Were they face to face?
Yes. Yes.
At times you saw him in the hallway?
Yes, absolutely.
So perhaps not meeting journalistically the bar many news organizations would require before any of us ran with a story, but does it take away from the credibility of what is being said in this book, Paul?
Well, there are a couple of people who've known Michael Wolff for quite some time that say, you know, look, he's a little bit loose sometimes with the way he does things. That being said, it's kind of ironic that Donald Trump, who's been playing the media, frankly, his entire career, is now saying that, well, you know, I didn't know that any of this was on the record. I wasn't quite sure what the rules were. Don't play the naive game now after all this time. When you are in a room with a journalist, you should always assume that it is on the record unless someone explicitly has said otherwise. Donald Trump is 71 years old. He knows how all of this stuff works. So, and the other thing about this, by the way, is that the Washington Post has a team of people, I'll be quick here, who do nothing but look at everything Donald Trump says and tweets. And they've decided that in the first 11 months of his presidency, he has said 5.5 things per day that are either false or misleading, a long track record of dishonesty. With that in mind, it's awfully hard for anyone to give him any bit of credibility when he says, oh, well, this is just not true. Nothing he says is true. Don't go all George Washington on us now and try to pretend like you're an honest guy here, because the track record simply doesn't suggest it. So with that in mind, it's simply hard for Trump to say with any degree of credibility that that none of this is true.
Linda, what's your angle on that? Because, you know, I hear what you're saying, that it does give the White House some type of out here.
Right.
But does the fact that this doesn't necessarily meet the journalistic bar that you and I or Paul would have to meet, does that take away from the credibility and the veracity of this book?
I think you have to read this book with a little bit of a skeptical eye, given Michael Wolff's track record. But having said that, I think, as Paul said, that a lot of what we read in this book is stuff we already knew to be true, and therefore this is really a bombshell book for this White House, and they are scrambling. I mean, they are just reeling over this and trying to kind of keep their equilibrium. But, just another but, to reverse again, I just think in terms of what this does say to Trump's supporters, this is just for them further proof that the media is out to get him, and I just can't see this really damaging Trump in terms of public opinion in any kind of serious way.
Well, you say this has been destabilizing, and we certainly seem to be getting that from the U.S. president. He's more than once defended his mental acuity in the wake of this book.
Or lack thereof.
I'll leave that to you, Paul. Take a listen to what Donald Trump had to say at Camp David yesterday.
I went to the best colleges, or college. I went to I had a situation where I was a very excellent student, came out, made billions and billions of dollars, became one of the top business people, went to television, and for 10 years was a tremendous success, as you probably have heard. Ran for president one time and won.
So that's Donald Trump. I'll pick up with you, Paul, since you were giving us a bit of your thoughts there beforehand. What do you make of the president's reaction to this book?
Well, look, I think that for someone who claims to be a media, well, a genius in general, but a media genius in particular, he's playing this all wrong. Yeah. The thing to do when, you know, all presidents are the subject of unflattering portrayals by journalists and that kind of thing. The best thing to do is simply ignore it, shorten the duration of the unpleasantness, and move on. By talking about it all the time, by tweeting about it, by putting your people on the Sunday morning talk shows, which he did today, is just extending the story. It sells more books. It gives more people the chance to read all these embarrassing stories about him. I do agree with the point you made, by the way, that out in Trump country, a lot of folks will simply say, look, it's just more evidence of the media out to get Donald Trump. On the other hand, why is Trump attacking Michael Wolff, though? The folks in the West Wing said these things. He claims he has tapes of a lot of these conversations. They spoke, he published. So why attack the messenger? Why not pay attention to the message? But I agree that Trump supporters probably aren't going to do that. They'll just look at, you know, oh, here's the media out to get President Trump again. I'm not quite sure whether it's really going to have a huge effect on his support.
Well, to that support, we certainly have seen Trump surrogates go out over the last few days. They are, like the president, actively discrediting the book. Take a listen to senior policy advisor to Trump, Stephen Miller. He was speaking earlier today on CNN. Take a listen to what he had to say.
The allegations and insinuations in this book, which are a pure work of fiction, are nothing but a pile of trash through and through.
So not mincing words there, Linda, but is the White House protesting too much here? Are they giving Michael Wolff's book more credibility by trying to deny it?
I think given who the president is, the White House staff who are appearing on television are doing what they have to do. Donald Trump, the story of this book isn't the book itself, it's Trump's reaction. And having reacted that way, Trump and his people have then had to go out and do damage control. So I disagree with Paul this about sending Trump surrogates out onto television to defend him. They've had to do this. Trump is his own worst enemy. Trump, we may have thought Trump understood PR when he entered the White House, but he didn't understand the PR of the presidency, which is that when something bad comes out, and it's going to come out every day, there are going to be a series of nasty books written about Donald Trump. He should have ignored this one. He needs to ignore the future books. Otherwise, his presidency is going to be completely bogged down in this. And, you know, the surrogates are doing the best they can. They have to pretend that that there's nothing to see here, that the book is a pack of lies, and hope that with Congress back, that everybody can move on and we can get back to policy making.